Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of Europa Community Challenge. So on last episode, we got very lucky and we were able to sort of expand our base quite considerably with a double insulating wall and, an electric smelter, so on and so forth. That was super fortuitous. I'm not gonna pretend it wasn't. But now I really need to start getting ready for more combat. So I think the push for this episode will be to try to get an improvised turret up and operational for security reasons. And with this new smelter and all the slag we have, well, let's crunch the numbers. So we have 3 steel here. We have 160 steel worth of slag out there, and then we have some steel weapons. So we absolutely have enough metallic stuff to melt down into steel, which is going to be very useful. To go over some of your comments here, a lot of you have obviously still reported hearing the echo. Do you have clothing on? No, you don't. Well, so I have an open support ticket out to the OBS forums about my issue here, and hopefully I get some responses. I didn't want to wait for a response because I'm really honestly out of ideas as to why it's happening. I have tinkered with a lot of my settings, and hopefully I've either narrowed down the echoing issue or resolved it, so we'll see. Time will tell after this episode is recorded. Okay, what else? So there were some other things. So that was like Red Ink, Squeaker Radio, Luke, all of you guys have been helping with that. Another thing is that right now I'm wearing this armor vest, which lowers my move speed a little bit. I should probably not have that on until I need it, so let's go ahead and drop that. I don't need to be slower than necessary. Alright, so some of you mentioned, why am I making the Thrumbo fur jacket? And the reason being is, I remember back when I did the first CI survival, Angie got shot in the heart. Not the torso, but the heart. But survived. And pretty much the only reason she survived was she was wearing high-quality clothing that helped mitigate some of that damage. And that was... Otherwise, that playthrough would have ended prematurely, and that would have been that. So the reason I'm doing the Thrumbo fur jacket, yes, selling the materials would net me a lot of silver. However, I do have a Thrumbo horn that could net me a good amount. So this Thrumbo horn's worth 2,000. I'll probably get about 800-900 for it. But I'm making the jacket so that what happened to NG doesn't happen to Cross, which is like an instant KO death, which is entirely possible given the fact that I have an inkling of a feeling that mechanoids are coming soon. I think I'm due for mechanoids pretty soon. So we have some peace talks here. Not that I'm going to attend. I'm not much of a negotiator, but we have peace talk opportunities at the very least. So another thing that I'm obviously missing and I'll need is some. Well, all right. So I need a turret. I need additional power generation. I need additional power storage. Yeah, and I was thinking about bedrooms. So first things first. If we want to protect our turrets, I don't know if this is exactly right here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that's one extra. I think I need to bump this out a little bit more. I'm not sure by how much. So let's say we eventually settle on 4 wind for now. Yeah, so we're going to need an exterior wall that protects it, like this. And to be perfectly honest, it would actually make even more sense to have wind additionally crisscross like this to use up. So let's call it 6. Let's see. I put it there. And that. Goes back to there. So one further. So if we really wanted to protect our power generation assets, which I do want to protect it. We would have wind power laid somewhat out like this, right? And then we'd wall it all off, which leads me to where the hell do I put my batteries? Or bedrooms, rather, not batteries. So I was thinking of maybe putting bedrooms. See, I mean, it's just a little weird. I could put bedrooms here, you know, in this sort of area here, and I'd have access to it through my kill box, and maybe that's what I do. But I'll have to brainstorm that. I think it's going to be a while until I have, you know, the resources for to bother with bedrooms. I mean, that's kind of a long way out. But you know, at least I was sort of brainstorming. Where will it be and how will it look? So this sort of power grid works for me. This is pretty condensed. I'm not wasting a whole lot of space out there. And I have one extra layer around everything so that I can build a roof and shovel it out so I have quicker movement around the exterior of my base. Let's kill the light. So we're running out of power. And let's haul this rice so we don't have to make multiple trips. So the reason I have the corn forbidden is to figure out how much rice I need, or how many tables of rice I need in order to supply what I need for my pond. So I actually just thought of something here. Let's give this meds, preferred priority of glare-worm medicine, to take this glit meds off of the stockpile and remove that. I don't want the interaction spots here to have items on them. Just looks nicer. Alright, so we whipped up 9 meals. That should be pretty good. I really hope the wind kicks up here, because we are definitely going to need more power. More. I suppose I can go ahead and maybe I'll put the pin in the interaction spot there. Forbid the armor vest. And we can just wear that armor vest anytime we get attacked. That doesn't really protect me from pod drops, you know, if enemies pod in, like on top of my head. But, you know, I'm at the mercy of those pod drops anyway, so. Alright, this has got to turn it off. There's so many little projects I need, like additional power generation, security turret. I think security turret's going to be my next big one, though. So let's go ahead and when we do slag, we'll just drop on floor. Saves us a bit of footwork. So a lot of you have been suggesting possible Beta 18 additional playthroughs, and I've been appreciating that. I'm going to just keep brainstorming. I'm not going to commit to anything until it's time to play it, but a lot of really good ideas out there. Also, Zeonovadan, who comments a lot on my videos, reminded me that weapons sell for a lot less than clothing does. So a revolver at $50 or a toque at $50, the toque is going to sell to a trader for a lot more than the revolver would have, which is something I've forgotten. But thanks for reminding me about that. But But even so, I think it's more important that I haul the steel weapons back to my base for the steel they're worth. Although the deterioration obviously doesn't really matter because a 1% dagger or a 99% dagger, I really should use the term shiver knife because there is no such thing as a dagger, gives me the same amount of steel. It doesn't really matter how deteriorated it is. When you melt it down, it's fine. I guess in real life equivalencies, you can think of like a super rusty knife that it hasn't been like chipped and broken, so it's like fully what it used to be, but it's like unbelievably rusty. When you melt that down, you'll get the same amount just about as you would, a brand new knife. We are definitely running low on components, and that's not something I can solve right now. Let's get back to slagging. And I think we're generating enough power to, just about to grow, almost. As you can see, it's close. And I've shut off everything I don't need, so I'm not going to get, there we go. Now the wind's going full steam ahead. So 8 more pieces of slag, and I'll have enough for a security turret. Because I have a notion here, looking at my wealth. Ooh, cargo pods. I like. Ooh, and they're rice and slag cargo pods. Let's go ahead and haul that rice in. That is some pretty fortuitous luck there. So I guess what I'll do here, at least until I have a better setup, is set up a dumping stockpile. Yeah, I don't really, I guess it could look somewhat like this, because we're going to need a lot of room for all this slag, right? And I think once we process this, I'm going to turn this off too, so we just haul the, and we're going to go to sleep. Because I want to haul the remainder of this corn, or rice, sorry. Which is 2 more arm loads. And then I think I'm going to haul the slag to this stockpile so that when we're processing the slag, it's a lot less footwork and a lot more slag smelting. Because that footwork, every minute that I spend running back and forth for the slag is time that the smelter is on and not doing work. And that's kind of a waste of time. That and we're damn near out of power here. Oh, the wind's kicking up a little bit. Alright, so let's haul the rice rather than add more slag. And then I'm going to queue up another haul. So we'll haul all the remainder of the rice. The multiple work queues are pretty cool. As long as you use them correctly. And what I mean by that is, if you queue up way too many tasks back to back to back, you can drive your pawn insane because they will, well, quite frankly, they'll have too much to do and they won't tend to their own needs, which is probably not a good thing. So let's say I queued up the hauling of all this slag after this rice. My food would drop, my joy would drop, my rest would drop, and then I'd run the risk of a mental break. That's kind of what I mean. But with the multiple queues, your pawn doesn't really acknowledge their needs, they'll just keep working until they go mad. So as much as I'd like my grow light to be on, I really need some additional power. I'm hoping to... well, I guess we have enough steel here to go ahead and process that into a turret. So I think that's my next task. I'm going to kick the grow light on as much as I can. Maybe let him have his joy. Let's go ahead and smelt. And both the smelter, which takes 700 watts, and the grow light, which takes almost 3,000. As you can see, this is doing a number on our power here. I just want, I'm risking it. I could turn off the comms console, but then I won't be aware of any traders that might come, and there's really nothing else to turn off. I've already turned off the orbital trade beacon, I've turned off the stove, I've turned off, everything but, well, here's one thing I could do. So let's lower this heater by 6 degrees and raise this heater by 6 degrees, and possibly it causes this heater to turn off every once in a while. Yeah, there it is. Really, really, really briefly, it can turn off. Now, in the summer, I might not even need 3 heaters up. In fact, I'm pretty sure in the summer I won't. And we're just about to the start of spring, so it's going to get more temperate. Temperate's kind of a weird way to describe it because it's stupidly cold still. So calling it more temperate is like almost a joke. Alright, so it says I need steel, but I don't think I do. Oh no, I need 1 more slag worth of steel. That's funny. Bambi, with your crappy synthread shirt, you're lazy, ugly, and incapable of a lot of things. I don't even think I'm going to bother with hauling that shirt, to be honest. It is worth 33. I get 70% of 33. I mean, it's worth it, but I guess why not? If I can get to her before she dies of hypothermia. No, I'm not even going to get to her before she dies of hypothermia. I think even if I left immediately, she would have died too soon. It's just the way it is sometimes. If you come to the polar Arctic of a super cold area in winter, in just a shirt, your chances of survival are slim, and I think that's probably the way it should be. If I showed up to Europa in real life, Europa that somehow had a breathable oxygen atmosphere, in negative 176, I think my body would shut down pretty much immediately, as it should. Alright, so we have a nice gust of wind here that is helping to fill these batteries up despite the light being on. These gusts are too few and far between. It makes me sad. But at least while we have the gust, I'm going to go ahead and crank out some meals here so that the 200 watt electric, or 350 watt, electric stove is not draining our batteries because we have so much additional power generation. But there it goes. We're now out of that additional power generation, so I can change gears. Because I really want this turret up, I'm going to go ahead and smelt this last piece. Despite what it's doing to my batteries, I acknowledge it's draining them. And now we have enough steel for this improvised turret. Now, one turret isn't going to make a world of difference. But, well, you know, I take that back. It might. It honestly might. But the issue is that leaves me with only 2 components, which is a bit of a nail-biting amount of spare components left. So I'm going to uninstall this and haul this back in. I think what I'll do here... Ooh, spacecraft chunk. I like that. We were just talking about how few components I have, and then boom, some 8 components or so land from the sky. That's luck. Maybe you should talk about, oh, you know, I could really use like power armor. See if power armor lands from the sky. So far it hasn't, so. If you're gonna run all the way out there, you might as well make the grave. It's weird to like put the shovel to the ground and then walk away, which is pretty much what he just did. Alright, so I'm out of steel, basically. I have 8 steel. But this will 8. So that's almost 80 steel. And then there's 3 here, or 30 there, which is 110 steel. So it's actually enough for another wind turbine, if I wanted to. Just barely enough, but enough for once I get smelting. And then if these tribals have any metal weapons, no, yes, steel Iqua. So that's 128 steel or so, providing I All right, so tribals are coming in. Might as well use my brand new turret here. I mean, what's the point in having this pretty turret if I don't use it? Looks like the bows outrange it though. But that's alright, because their other pawns are going to run right into it. And looking at their frostbite, they're not even be conscious for that much longer. The only reason I really have this turret, I don't think it's going to do a hell of a lot of damage, but it's going to soak up some that otherwise would have hurt me. So let's see. Is any of this stuff worth anything? No, not so much. This Deadman gear gets pretty worthless. The Iqua, however, that's not the case. Alright, so they're dead. We're going to immediately uninstall this. Crocodile here is going to collapse of hypothermia in a second. So I don't even really have to go after him. Down he goes. Let's go ahead and strip him, as he is the most time-sensitive thing to do here. And usually Parkers are worth more than anything else, so haul the Parker first. The Devil Strand travel wear, it's worth a pretty penny, but I bet this Parker's worth more even though it's poor. Yeah, 215. Alright, so that's 3 more raiders. 1, 2, 3. Which I'll do some additional burying. And yes, I'm going to bury the dead raiders with their dead man gear. I could make a few bucks off of this. That would be, you know what? Actually, yeah, I'll strip it. And I'm doing that. Hold on. Why? Okay, strip. I'm doing that because. Okay, that's 1 silver. I have a lot of extra space right now. So I might as well. 1 silver is not much, but let's assign the colonist of Cross for now, because I want this spacer to be buried there, but the easiest way to do is just assign it to Cross so it doesn't use it. Alright, anything else in comments that I have not addressed? Not so much. I think I've addressed most of it. Alright, so now we're hauling Bambi. We're going to get pretty hungry doing that. And that means the clothing that we have laying around will decay even further. So like this shirt, for instance, is not worth keeping. It's worth less than a silver. And yeah, and we can just bury it with her. Why not? So having a second pawn right now would be helpful. All these long hauling tasks take its toll. Alright, let's go ahead and bury Bambi in the grave that she belongs. And tend to our needs, because we need rest, we need food. We don't want to go crazy here. Soon I'll be over this whole my friend Lee died, which was avoidable. You know, I should stop suggestion that refugees visit me. Still some more stuff out there for me to haul. Let's get this joy up a bit. As you can see, my grow light's been off for a pretty long time. Mostly because I just don't have I don't have enough power to really reliably keep it on. So I really need to work on that. I really need another wind turbine. As you can see, I already have one queued up here. I think that's the next most important thing for me to do. We have an eclipse. I'm not sure why these events are kind of like lagging. I'm sure you've noticed that there's like a little bit of a hiccup right before they occur. Maybe that's an Alpha 18 thing. Maybe that's something from before that I never really noticed. I'm not sure. What I do know is that I've never noticed it before, so maybe it's new. Alright, so we're hauling all this stuff in. I'm just going to force haul the remaining of this stuff, queue it all up. Because we have enough food, rest, and joy to do it without going crazy. And maybe we get visited by an orbital trader that's, you know, that can take that stuff. So on my count, alright, so we have 70, 100. Yeah, so I think, oh, and 110. So I think we just barely have enough for this windmill. We smelted everything on the map. We'd have 110, and we need 93. So cutting it a little close. So as you can see, this is what I was warning about. Queuing up too many tasks back to back to back. We are now in dire need of rest, food, joy. Or food, rest, joy, I should say, in that order. But that's fine. I mean, we didn't push it too bad. One thing I could do is try for a better bed, now that my constructing skill is a bit higher. Or add a dresser or a headrest. Or whatever, nightstand, I think it's called. Headrest. Huh. But finally, I think our batteries are high enough that we can go ahead and... Oh, well, they're dropping again. Almost immediately as I say that. But regardless, the power is high enough that I feel pretty confident that we can just go ahead and keep the grow light on for now. What toque am I wearing? Cloth toque. Higher quality cloth toque. I must have dropped this poor one. I just noticed. Which is fine. Alright, so consume. And then haul, and then haul. Queuing them up once again. I suppose another reason why I don't... okay, we're not generating any power. Let's cut. That's what drains a battery the most, is when we're generating no power, but we're drawing a lot for, chiefly for the sun lamp. That's what drains us the fastest. these long trips take a while. Thick snow and ice really slows you down. Now, what's funny about that is the swamp, if I do a tropical swamp playthrough, the swamps are choked, absolutely choked with plant life. Even more so than tropical jungles, which I think is a little backwards, to be honest. I think jungles should be more choked than swamps, but, ooh, derpy. With some good clothing. We'll go ahead and wake up and do our little rescue trick. Not much of a trick. Everyone knows it, but let's go ahead and rescue Derpy. Are you... Okay, you're a slowpoke, jealous psychopath, incapable of violence. You're about... Yeah, you are Derpy. I'm just gonna go right ahead and say it. What a derpy pawn. So you have serious hypothermia, only 45%. We're going to be able to bring him back probably the whole way. Just about. But I'll do a quick little check here. Extreme, 70%. Because I obviously don't want his high quality clothing to go to waste here. So, strip, and how close did I? 91%, so 9% off. Got pretty close there. Yeah, he died pretty shortly thereafter. That means another grave, which is our first layer of graves, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, we're getting hot. I think I'm going to drop this too, because we're getting too hot. Now that it's April-May, or whatever you want to call it, the start of April, at the start of spring, I should say, it is warming up a bit. And as such, we don't need as insulating clothing. So being comfortable up to 73 is pretty important. And if I put on a toque, it warms me up a bit too much. Alright. So then we have Derpy's slag out there, which is a bit more steel, which is decent. And then once these wind turbines start spinning up, as you can see, the batteries are pretty nicely full. So once those wind turbines spin back up, I can start growing again. I'm not at food, a risk of lack of food yet. I think I will be soon. But let's go ahead and cook some more, because we're out of meals. Fine. You want to do some joy? That's totally allowable. As I said, making sure your mood stays up is direly important. Because if you have a psychotic break, especially if you're the only pawn in your base, you're at the mercy of whatever that break is. Now, there's a lot of newer breaks. On the other hand, a tantrum, or I don't think I'd be able to do an insulting spree. There's no one to insult, but like a tantrum could really be bad, because some of the most expensive stuff I have is the comms console and electric smelter and that kind of stuff. And if I broke that stuff in my tantrum, that'd be pretty terrible. All right, so we're generating some power here, a lot of it. I'm gonna flick back my grow lights because it's been a while since I've grown this rice plant. I think it's about time. And all this lovely thromo meat has really carried me for a while now, as you can see. I've been living off of it. And we are resting. We're not going to rest very long. So yeah, now this full blast wind is keeping the grow lights from draining our batteries. Oh, and then the wind dies. I shouldn't have said anything. Alright. Wind slowed down a bit too much. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 7 pieces of slag or more into the stockpile. No, 7 pieces will be enough, because that will leave me with 110. Because I'll melt this weapon, which I would only get 10 silver for with, yeah, and then I'll have 10 steel left over. Emergency steel. It's always good to have like a little emergency supply of steel in case a conduit breaks, because let's say somehow, well, I mean, let's say somehow this conduit here breaks, I'd have half the amount of power unless I had steel to repair it. Alright, so we're doing this dumping stockpile hauling, which takes forever, but looks like I got the steel that was on that escape pod, and I got the steel that was down here, wherever the other escape pod was. Regardless, it doesn't really matter if I queue up slag hauling, because I can always just turn on my smelter, and in doing so, oh, speaking of which, brawler proselyte with some clothing on. Let's see if I can't rescue you. Bring your clothing in. I mean, I realize why the Storyteller keeps sending me pawns, because for now it's only Cross here. It's thinking I need another one. Alright, so we are 81%. So I'm not going to risk it. I think this is about as far as I can carry her. Yeah, we're 96%. I had a hunch that that was about it. And we'll go haul her clothing. Specifically, the nicest clothing first. And queue up another grave. And they're going to put them in nice rows like this. Because the raiders can have these sort of insignificant graves here, but the visitors, I don't think, should suffer that same sort of fate. Alright, so finally my rice is going to be full grown in just a second. Ready to harvest. I can cut the grow light. Oh, we had some failed harvest there. But I am getting better at growing, slowly, but soon I'll hit 7. Once we have it all resown, well, there's no wind, so maybe I'll just keep the grow light off for now. Instead of building that grave, let's haul the pants. That's more time sensitive. And our stockpile is slowly filling up. I only have a few more spots left. I could always move some of the stuff. So, like, one suggestion that... Ooh, who suggested it? Maybe Zhushang Zan? I forget. I want to attribute you properly, but I forget exactly who suggested. Said that I could... and this is something I do a lot, as you all see. I could create, like, one little wooden wall and then... create a roof around it for sort of the junk of the base. And I've done that in the past, especially in my tribal playthroughs, that it's expensive to store things. Alright, come on, wind, kick up a bit. 2 batteries are definitely better than 1, though. That much I can say. So being the gentleman that I am, which is kind of funny to say, given the fact that I never really rescue anyone, but I do bury them. At this point, I'm fairly... I mean, I think if I had a little bit more steel, or got visited by some bulk goods traders or something like that, I'd be more comfortable taking on refugees or a really good... like one more good colonist. I don't exactly have the room for them at the moment. Speaking of which, another pod of fish. Well, fish, I think you're just going to die there. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe not. Though, what kind of storage do I have for her clothing? Basically none. Alright, let's say furniture. I should just leave that there, honestly. Providing Cross doesn't use it to heal himself. So you weren't even running for fish. Let's go ahead and rescue fish. Oh. I think we just need to strip fish immediately. We're not going to be able to do anything to save her. She's just going to bleed out immediately. Or become hypothermic immediately, I really should say. So what I'm going to do here to stockpile a little bit better is to haul this steel into the other steel, free up one more spot. And haul our pants and barrier. Now I said I wanted to like bury everyone so I have a record of what happened, like tally marks. And that's getting like extraordinarily time intensive. It takes a lot of time to haul their stuff, and I feel like I'm not making enough progress on the base as a result. I mean, I'm definitely not making enough progress on the base as a result. As you can see with this wind turbine that really is no closer to being finished than it was like multiple days ago. I think it's a nice thing that I try to bury them, but it is slowing me down. This game needs to stop sending me corpses. Speaking of which, we will ignore that refugee. I should have read it, because every now and then the refugees that are seeking asylum are relatives or pawns that you start with. So now in beta 18, I forget how many, maybe up to 8. You create 8 pawns that you got separated with, but still exist. So they're not necessarily relatives. They're just other pawns that you'll have missions to go rescue or ransom, which is pretty cool. So as I mentioned before, I need one more piece of slag here. Okay, and I have a solar flare. I don't think I'll be able to do this in time. Okay, we're cutting the plants, but they're not yielding anything, so I thought they were grown enough, but oh well. Stupid solar flare killing off all their plants. At least I'm wearing warm enough stuff that I don't care about the solar flare. Heat-wise, I'm not going to become hypothermic and die. So there, that's a bit of a blessing, right? So now we have our power back. We can obviously cut the grow lights, because we have nothing to grow. And then I'm breaking down this Iqua burst. And then I'll resow the area. There we go. Oh, and the Iqua gave me 15, not 10. Even better. So we're going to drain the hell of our batteries right now, but that will at least allow us to get another wind turbine, so it will be worth it, I think. So we have 45, we need 93. We have 55, we need 93. This will be 65, 75, 85. And then one more piece, one more slag piece, and we'll have enough. We'll just have to haul it in. Honestly, not bad. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. Okay, lights are off. This got grown as much as it could. You know, when you have like hard snow, you really think your wind turbines would kick up a bit, right? But I am not generating any power. Okay, so once we smelt this slag, we'll have enough for another wind turbine. I think that will really, really, really benefit us having a little bit more power generation, because two turbines are just about enough to cover the grow light. 3 turbines will be enough to cover the grow light and keep us from having to turn everything off. I mean, I think I still will turn everything off pretty regularly, but not so militantly. Okay, you went to sleep at 4 in the morning, so that's another issue with this. Ooh, an aurora. So here's what the aurora looks like. And if I went outside right now, I'd be happy. So maybe I'll go do that. So if you look at the needs here, beautiful aurora improves the mood. So standing out here, why not? Improve the mood a little bit. And I don't know how I'm in a bright aurora and in darkness at the same time, but you know, whatever. I guess it is still dark everywhere, which is really, really a weird thought. Alright, so this is our extra wind turbine. So as you can see, we're at like negative 6,000-7,000. And although the wind just died, but really, honestly, the extra wind turbine is going to be amazing in the long run. So it's getting warm enough that I could probably lose the parka in lieu of a warm jacket, I think. So I think I'm going to try to go back to a toque and a synthread jacket. Because we're about a negative 100. Maybe it's not going to be warm enough, quite warm enough, but let's see. Let's go ahead and slap this on, slap that on. Haul this. Alright, so this keeps us... No, it's not nearly warm enough. I thought it'd be a little bit warmer. Synthread's just not that warm. That's really what it comes down to. Alright, how much more steel do we have out here? So we have 450... I think just 50 slag. So 60 slag worth of steel. It's enough for another battery, I guess. Not that I'm going to make another battery. I don't think that's the first thing I'm going to need to make. So what if I wear a lesser parka? Buffalo wool, alpaca. Because I don't want to wear out my like warmest stuff if I can help it. But I think that should be good enough. This keeps me certainly plenty warm, and this alpaca wool is slightly less insulating than the muffalo wool. Muffalo wool, I think, is like roughly 10% better. So obviously I'm still in parka territory, but as I approach summer, maybe I can lose the parkas. It looks like I'm going to need to do some cooking pretty soon. So as you can see, these extra wind turbines, this one extra wind turbine really is filling up these batteries quite nicely when we have a wind gust, rather than just barely compensating for the grow light. As you can see, we're still generating a huge amount of power additionally, which is what I was looking for the whole time. It does help that it's like super windy right now. Certainly not going to complain about that. Oh, if only the wind could stay as high as it is now. But for instance, for now, like at this current wind, we are, you know, the wind's pretty significantly died down, and we're still almost breaking even. So, you know, now the wind's totally dead. Definitely need to cut that light when the wind fully dies. And unless I don't really see a scenario where I can generate other power other than if I made a ship reactor. But that's much later on. because I don't think I'm ever going to have enough chem fuel or wood to do these generators, and I don't think solar will ever really yield enough in the dark. I wish it would tell me. I wish it would say like, oh, you know, in your current environment, you'll approximately get X from solar. But obviously that's not how it works. Alright, so that's enough meals for now. Really hoping, come on, wind. There we go, it's starting to kick back up. Now it's probably enough, just about enough for a grow light. Yeah, almost. 29 would be enough for a grow light. It's working there. Yep, there we go. So even at half wind, we have enough for the grow light to be on and be generating power, which is pretty decent. And it fills the batteries up pretty quick. So here we are at about half wind, and we're still in the positive. Alright, so we're almost done hauling the slag. And what kind of time do I have? About 50 minutes. So we'll probably be done, roughly, with hauling all the slag by the end of this episode. I can't say that I got a whole lot done this episode. It seems crazy that in 1 hour, really all I managed to accomplish was building a turret, building a wind turbine, and and burying a whole lot of people. Like, that's kind of it. That's all I'm really able to do in a given hour, which seems insane. Because that's just not much. To be fair and honest, that's just not a whole lot. I mean, I did level up growing, and that counts for basically nothing. But I leveled up some growing. It's just the part. I mean, the biggest part of this challenge, honestly, is how slow you move outside in this snow. That's probably the biggest struggle, I'd say, if I was to put my finger on something, because your pawn's movement, like right now, my actual move speed. Where's the actual move speed? 'Cause I'm not moving at this speed here. Yeah, I don't know why it's whatever. Well, it would be 4.5 times, 0.52 times 4.52. Let's see, 4.5 times 0.52 times 0.52. So my actual move speed is like it's like a cell a second. Much slower than if I was moving on road or something like that. So we have 2 more slag left to haul, and then going to go ahead and smelt it. As you can see, this additional wind turbine has really helped keep my batteries up, which is pretty awesome. And at this point, I have to think, what do I really need out of the steel that I'm going to yield from the slag? Like, what is the next big important thing that my base needs? Some sandbags, maybe? That's a possibility. I might want to run conduit inside my walls around the base, rather than just this weird conduit in the middle. Or at least bring the weird conduit out to the front here, so I can power a turret in the front. Something, along those lines. I think probably, using the steel for security reasons is probably the most beneficial, because at the moment I feel like, except for when my the wind dies, my power generation is pretty good. Alright, so this is the last hunk of slag, I think, anywhere. Looking around quickly, I don't know what this will look like in the playthrough, because sometimes it rendering errors. I don't know. Oh, Mr. Europa. Alright, so we'll have 62 steel left over, which is enough to run a decent amount of conduit. At least I think. Now, ideally, the walls would all be stone, inflammable stone. But, you know, nothing is ever ideal in my playthroughs. Bulk goods traders. I mean, maybe I think I still want steel over stone, but I could use some stone from the next bulk good trader that comes by. Use a little bit of stone in order to fireproof my home a bit more. But I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, there was slow progress made here, but one turret and one additional wind turbine is still a lot of progress, because certainly things could digress. You know, I could have a horrible fire, you know, or get shelled or die. You know, there's always mortality issues, right? I shouldn't assume that my pawn will always stay alive. I'm gonna do my best to keep him alive, but accidents and tragedies happen. I roofed this outer area up a little bit. This electric smelter is generating enough light that I can work on it without much issue. So I'm going to spend my steel like this, running conduit all the way around, so that if I have a break in the line, I have some redundancy. Let's cut the power there. And this way I can also connect my heaters to the closest conduit, so it's not so friggin' ugly. Because I do have wires everywhere, which is not the prettiest. Let's flip my grow light back on. Alright, so that means that I could install... Let's get rid of this ugly zone. I could install this turret here. And I have enough for some sandbags. Kind of weird to build it like this. I'll acknowledge that, because it makes, you know what, maybe I'll bump it out by one. So let's say, because I don't have my kill box, I think I'm going to rework this once I have a kill box. But until I have that kill box, we'll just do it like this. And not all enemies are going to come from this one direction, obviously. Alright, come on. I built a conduit here, didn't I? Let's... Ooh, I ran out of steel. Let's deconstruct some of this. Didn't realize how expensive that would be. All 6 of my steel is going to go into here. That's every little last piece of steel I have. Maybe not worth exactly using every last piece, but if I ever needed steel, I could break it down from one of these inside corner pieces. Speaking of which, I am at the top of my hour, and I think, although it's a little cruel, ending with the start of a mechanoid raid, it's kind of a fun place to end. So I apologize for the cliffhanger, but this will be the ending of episode 3. So I'm glad you, or I hope you enjoy it. And if did, let me know. And if you have any feedback, questions, concerns, comments, suggestions, or anything else I failed to mention, feel free to drop me a line. And I almost never say this, but go ahead and like and subscribe. I know you're tired of YouTubers saying that, but there's a reason for it. For most YouTubers, it generates ad revenue, and I don't have any ads on any of my videos. You should never see ads because I'm never gonna enable them through YouTube. But at least it encourages me to generate more content when I know you guys like what I do. So let me know if you like it through comments or other actions. And feel free to share this this challenge with your friends, because I haven't actually heard anyone's stories yet of attempts of this. And maybe I need to go look at the Steam forums and Ludeon forums and Reddit where I posted it, but I actually haven't really received any feedback in those areas. So I don't know. Maybe no one's trying this. Maybe it's just me. But regardless, that's the end of the episode, and thank you for watching, and I hope that you catch the next one. So adios, everyone. And if you're trying this for yourself, good luck.